And welcome back. How is everyone doing? Good? Yeah? If you're dialing in online, let us know how you're feeling with a, I think you can insert an emoji on the chat. Maybe do that to let us know how you're feeling. Next up, we will dive into the topic of building an entrepreneurship and innovation ecosystem. Today, with us here, we have 3 experts in the field that are willing to share their insights in regards to this topic. And with that, I would like to first of all introduce the panel speaker and the panel moderator for this session, Dr. Frank Pawlitschek. Frank is a head of the School of Entrepreneurship at the HPI and the managing director of HPI Seed. Fun fact, in year 2008, he founded a successful Berlin startup company which develops intelligent solutions around charging and smart grid integration of electric cars. And I heard it was sold as well. So you sold the company, I guess. Last year, right. So he sold off the company as well. So, okay, so that's a brief introduction of Dr. Frank Pawlitschek. Please help me welcome him. Thank you. And I'll hand it to you to introduce the panelists as well.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for the very kind introduction. It's great to be here. First of all, thanks a lot to School of Design Thinking for inviting me to organize and run this panel together with you. So I know it's basically close to the end of this wonderful event. So you might be a little bit exhausted already. So we try to make it as interactive and hopefully fun for you to join here. First of all, I'd like to introduce you to my 2 co-panelists. I'm really proud to have both of them here. And I would start with the one being here in presence, which is Karolin. Karolin Hewelt. I would like to ask you here on stage. Please, warm applause for Karolin. And the second one is waiting in the virtual room already. The second one is Deepa. Deepa Gautam-Nigge. I'm very proud you made it here, knowing your schedule. So warm applause to Deepa as well, please. So to give you a little bit of better understanding about who we are, I would like to introduce Karolin first. Karolin is co-founder and managing director of a digital agency with the name RCKT. She is a long-term advisor of the German Ministry of Economics and leading the Hub agency as part of the Digital Hub initiative. This will be a very important role, and this is a very important initiative when it comes to ecosystems. And so she is not only building ecosystem, but she is a mentor also to startups and a coach in the Spin Lab Accelerator and a jury member at MTH conference. And before building her own agency, she was working for Rocket Internet. For those of you not knowing Rocket Internet, they built like really successful internet startups. And she learned how a functioning ecosystem is in fact working. So knowing it from the scratch. And she studied communication management in Leipzig and Lyon and holds an MBA. So again, welcome. It's great that you're here.
Thank you.
And second to Deepa. Deepa is at the moment in the south of Germany, and so I'm really happy she is here. And Deepa is deeply convinced that innovation is only existing and generated in networks, in ecosystems where intelligence is used collectively to drive innovation. She is now working at SAP in the corporate development and was a long-term leader of the global lead of SAP Next Gen Ecosystems, knowing an enormous amount of people and building an extremely large ecosystem. She is everywhere. Yeah, if you Google her, you will see she's basically everywhere, connecting the dots. Yeah, I couldn't wish for someone better in terms of knowing how ecosystems are working here. And just recently, actually, she is the publisher of a book about ecosystem innovation and how to build ecosystems, which combines a lot of different authors in how to build successful ecosystems at university, but beyond as well. So she's teaching as a lecturer at various universities, at TU Munich, at Hochschule St. Gallen, at the EBS in close to Frankfurt, and she's a supervisory board member in many companies. So originally she studied business and economics at RWTH in Aachen. And why am I telling you all this? Yeah, because it all matters if it comes to ecosystems. Yeah. So keep in mind what you heard about the CVs of these two ladies, because it might play a role in the later stage of this panel here. So she's living in Munich, and again, warm welcome to both of you. Myself, again, I have a totally different background. Actually, I'm a studied and trained lawyer. Yeah, so what am I doing here? But after finishing school, I wasn't completely sure what to do, and as so many of us, I studied law, and then I worked in a couple of international law firms doing mergers and acquisitions, advising technology companies, and I had the feeling, because I was lucky to have spent some summers as a very young person in Silicon Valley, that I really like to follow an own idea. And so in 2008, I started together with one of my colleagues a startup in Berlin, as you learned already, in the field of electric mobility, to make a difference, to do something against climate change. We were a little bit too early, 2008, yeah, but we made it through the time. And when we stepped out of the startup, I planned to do a sabbatical. And if you remember what we learned from Uli yesterday, that he did a sabbatical and somehow then started here. I planned to do a sabbatical. In my case, we couldn't do it because of Corona. And just when we decided that we can't do it, I got a call from HPI, so it's somehow a similar story. And well, whereas Uli did a great job in building the School of Design Thinking, I just started roughly 2 years ago to build and grow the School of Entrepreneurship. So the School of Entrepreneurship here is basically like a sister of School of Design Thinking, but we are very close, and we are working strongly together, and I will come to that in a second. Before we start our discussion, I would ask you to briefly switch to the slides. Deepa, this means that we will not see you for probably 3 to 4 minutes. I have to excuse this already.
It's okay.
Okay. For the time you're looking for the slides, I can start already. We are talking here about building ecosystems, in our case, innovation and entrepreneurship ecosystems. And so the question is, what is an ecosystem? We will discuss exactly this. What does it take to build an ecosystem? What kind of impact can you generate? For us here at HPI, we are believers in ecosystems, because we think only if various disciplines, various people, various kinds of partners, strengths are coming together, working together, finding out what they can actually move together, we can actually really generate the full impact of the innovation we require. Here at HPI, it's quite simple. I always say we try to empower the makers and innovators of this 21st century to make a difference, because what we urgently need is no slides. No slides, that's not a problem. So you have to picture the slides a little bit, but good thing is we will have Deepa in the picture the whole time. Not a problem. So empowering the makers and innovators of this century is the goal at HPI. Obviously, we are focusing a lot on digital engineers, but we at the School of Design Thinking, at the School of Entrepreneurship, are actively bringing other disciplines in our programs as well. And we are not only doing this, we are building programs involving outside organizations as well. School of Design Thinking does it, working together with partners from the outside world, bringing like the real problems from the real world into the university system. And this is what we do at the School of Entrepreneurship as well. In our case, we focus a lot of really teaching people on how to not only think in ideas, but to transfer ideas into products, technologies into products. So understanding for what kind of product there is like a need from the customer, from the market side. And we teach them how to build startups. And we are not doing this by just standing in a lecture hall and telling them, do it, and this is the way, but we take them on a journey. They experience how it is to build a digital product, to get the customer feedback, to understand what a successful product prototype is looking like, and we build with them their startup ideas in our venture builder. So it's all about the practical experience here at School of Entrepreneurship. And talking about the ecosystem, you can really imagine that HPI is like a puzzle, where things are done together. So we have digital engineering chairs where people are educated to become great engineers, obviously, and to think in technologies and understand technologies. And the School of Design Thinking is picking up this kind of know-how and the people, working with them on methodologies around design thinking and innovation and idea creating. And then we come into play and take them over and take them to the point where they build successful products or where they even build a successful startup. And after that, we don't leave them alone. We send them from this building into the building just over there, because our startup ecosystem is also a part of this ecosystem here. So we keep startups here because of the network effects, because of the symbol that it is totally normal to follow an own idea. So everyone can see that it's happening here on campus. And people are hiring from our startups the students from HPI as working students. So this is bringing ecosystem parts together already. And then we have a lot of partners, a lot of alumni we put in our programs, mixing this up and building it and building it. And on top, we connect our ecosystem with other ecosystems, because we are believers in something we call like a meta ecosystem, where we connect successful ecosystems together so that we can make even more differences. And this is exactly what we do, for example, together with the Digital Hub initiative. We do have the Media Tech Hub here, right across the street, and where we connect and bring people and programs together again. So this is what we do. And now, obviously, I would love to start the discussion. And maybe starting with you, sure. Being responsible to a certain degree for building ecosystems, maybe you can tell us first what, from your perspective, is really making an ecosystem. So the question is not maybe how do you define it, but what does it take to really speak of an ecosystem?
I think it helps when I describe a little bit the history of the Digital Hub initiative, because it
Sure.
did not start as an ecosystem, I believe. It grew to an ecosystem. Yeah. It started as 12 different hubs they could apply for the Digital Hub initiative, the D-Hub logo or award, as we call it. It was 2017 when it started. And they were announced, they were selected, and then we had those 12 different hubs in Germany called digital hubs, and they all focused on different industries, and their main goal was to bring startups and digital players and the corporate world together and form new ideas, form new products, form new business models in best case. That was the basic idea, but they started as 12 different hubs. They did not start as an ecosystem, as we call it today, or as we describe it today. And back then we started very bold, and I've been informed that here are some guests from the US, so we said we are not just one Silicon Valley, we have 12 of them. And I think now we could be very, bold in stretching that sentence or that quote and say that we have now one big ecosystem throughout Germany. And what changed during those 5 years? It was the work of the hubs not only focusing on their own industry and on their own partners, their own startups with their own technology, but building that ecosystem around them with the other 12 hubs. So bringing them together on one table, and not only, Professor Meinl said that in the panel before, not only talking about their own topics, but talking together about a third topic, bringing them together and putting a challenge on the table so that they had to get new ideas from different point of views, from the view of, I don't know, maybe logistics is one of our hubs, or from the AI hub in Karlsruhe, bringing those ideas on one table and thinking of new challenges, or bringing the corporates together or the startups together. That made the difference, and that is what I define an ecosystem, and not only having 12 hubs working on their own networks. Yep. So the new ideas that grow out of the ecosystem, out of those 12 different perspectives.
Yeah. Thanks a lot. Deepa, you're a deep believer in ecosystems, and you work a lot in supporting ecosystems. Why do you think are ecosystems so important to enable innovation?
I think it's important to really combine the strengths of the collective players and organisms, so to say. The ecosystem coming from the term coming from the biology, but I think this community aspect and all the interdependencies between all these actors and players are quite similar. So really you have corporates, you have academia, you have the startups as disruptors to ecosystems. And you really need to get all these things somehow balanced together and getting them working together. As Karolin described, the Digital Hub Initiative, which she said that wasn't from the beginning an ecosystem, but I think it was 12 micro ecosystems. And I was lucky back then in 2017 to be one of the founding members of the Mobility Hub in Munich. And that already was a little ecosystem where we tried to tie together startups, talents from all over the world, corporate partners, to really drive jointly innovation. And I think it was really the approach to really bring together people from various backgrounds, various perspectives, various industries, really helped to find new solutions.
Thanks a lot. Here we learned over time, I would say, that it takes some elements to actually build an ecosystem. Partners, obviously, is one, but just having partners and letting them know that there are partners probably is not enough. So maybe, and I would ask this to both of you, what do you think are the crucial elements, not only in terms of partners, to form a successful ecosystem where you generate exactly the impact Deepa was referring to?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think if I could...
No, it's fine, Deepa, sorry, I have to address this clearer.
No problem. I think at first, and this is what I really now I have echo. No, it's okay. What I saw in the beginning, or from my learnings, ecosystem or driving innovation, you need to create rooms. So you need to have a cultural room, so to say, or a space. You create spaces or rooms to really get people together in a cultural subject to be very open, collaborative, work and on a joint mission, so to say. But you'll also need kind of a legal space, legal room to really secure whatever comes out of this exercise. And you need a physical room where people really can get together and work jointly, collaboratively. So it's really kind of a mindset thing in terms of culture, but it's a legal aspect you need to have covered somehow, because if you invent something, you don't know what comes out of it, and how is if you invent something jointly, you don't know. Yeah, you need to be clear about what happens with the IP and the physical part to really have some place together and really work together.
Thanks a lot. Karolin, I'm sure you have your very own experiences here as well.
I totally agree with Deepa. So this is one of the most important parts, to have that room. Might it be digital or physically in a room, and have those partners and the perspectives that I mentioned in one room talking together. But I would add, as equally important is the formats that you have to invent, especially in the beginning, before you get to a certain point where the ecosystem and the people in the room are talking because they know how to do that. For this beginning, or to getting them talk, is to find the right formats in which you can do that. So matchmaking is one, probably you've done that in the last days as well, is one format that always works. We sometimes support those formats, those matchmaking events with some questions that we ask and that we bring on the table, or we start with challenges that are not known by anyone in the room, so they have to work on those challenges, or they have to think in scenarios, or they have another workshop exercise. So to find or define the right format in which they gonna exchange and talk to each other, that helps a lot to bring the people to really get new ideas out of it.
I couldn't agree more with regard to formats. Here at the School of Design Thinking, for example, we do have like the basic track and the advanced track, where we bring exactly people together, working together on one challenge. We do that in our product builder program as well. And I think from our experience, to create this spirit of being together, of feeling what a completely so far random team that is growing together, coming from different disciplines, can actually move. This spirit creates a sort of motivation. And in our product builder program, for example, we have a very strong focus on the potential commercialization of a product prototype and an idea that is transferred into a potential product. And I'm always astonished, and I'm very sure Uli can tell such stories like to the hundreds as well. If people come back from a real customer with open eyes and a smile, and they say, they really want to have it. They really think it's great. And they told me, if you build it, I will buy it. Yeah, because this kind of motivation makes people sticking in, well, the process, in continuing to work on this idea. And if you combine this with ecosystem partners, they learn so much from each other. But maybe Deepa, with regard to formats and your experience, I mean, you know a lot of different university ecosystems and corporate ecosystems. What kind of formats do you think, from your experience, work best if you want to generate impact from that?
Yeah, that you immediately bring all formats that immediately bring in different perspective and also experiences. I think that's the most crucial thing. So not only being circling around your own student initiative at once, or really bringing in the corporate partners very, very early on, ideally from different companies. Also think about what happens with the results. So how can it's kind of how it's not only inventing something, but really thinking about how could this be commercialized. So we really need different profiles in there. Yeah, you need a great setup in terms of also to finance whatever ideas come out. So it's really thinking about what happens and how can I scale the result. So I think that's the most important thing.
A lot of people are trying to build ecosystems because they have this feeling that it could work, but you can do a lot wrong in building ecosystems, and well, learning from what was not successful typically is very healthy if you do things now maybe better. So I would ask you first, from your experience, just by putting money on such an ecosystem, you do not necessarily generate the impact you're looking for. What would you think is not working, yeah, and is not worth to spend too much money on?
Yeah, I think what's definitely not working is when you want to go into an ecosystem as a corporate, for example, want to get all the ideas and all the energy out of it, but not give anything into the ecosystem. So it's also a sharing of knowledge, for example, of market access, of things trying things out in the real company. Because when the startups want to work with you, they probably are not as greatly. They don't have all those access that you have as a big company, and that's what they expect from you as a company. Also, what we've experienced, for example, in the insurance technology industry, is that competitors are not competitors anymore when they go into the ecosystem. In also Munich Hub, insurance tech hub, they work on a problem or on a challenge of the company or of the branch itself. And they are not competitors in that moment. They're working together. They share that knowledge and they take the knowledge out of it. Otherwise, they would not or wouldn't be able to work together that openly. That's one tip I could give to like all the branches or companies, that if you really want to work in an ecosystem and want to get something out of it, firstly, you have to give something as well. And secondly, you don't have to think in competitor restraints. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. And I want to add on this, that you at least need to set a strategy. Oh, now I have an echo again. Sorry. I think really setting a strategy. What do you want to achieve with your ecosystem? What's the objective to really drive initiatives? Because otherwise, it will be, you can be mad with getting mad with connecting for the sake of connecting. So that's not the purpose. So really setting a clear objective. What do you want to achieve? Which kind of ecosystem partners do I need? And what is this win-win situation for each and every of those? And this creates the give and get motion that Karolin was describing. So I think that's the most important part to set first, to say, okay, what's my objective? What do I want to achieve? And how do I create the formats to get there, and what are the ecosystem players need, at least initially, to get this going.
What do you think? How can we create more openness for that? Not just to say, well, ecosystems are great, let's be a part of it, but to really mean it. Because I think what you two just said is very, very true. We realized this year as well, with my own startup, I had like similar fears. If you collaborate with others, be it like universities, be it corporates, be it different startups, you're like always alerted that someone is taking your knowledge and is quicker, better, whatever, more successful in taking your idea to market than you yourself are. And not only we as a startup had this, well, fear, but corporates do have it as well. And it's very quickly happening that the relationship between a university and a startup, university and a corporate, startup team and a corporate, is not really fruitful anymore, because everyone's either holding back, trying to secure some claims, and how can we make people understand that it is worth to let go a little bit and to relax and to actually move into such ecosystems more openly, to create, well, new ideas, new products.
several things to say about that. So first of all, I want to also give an example. In Leipzig, for example, there is the Hub for Smart Infrastructure, and they also found out that the corporates they want to work with them are not, let's say, ready for that phase of working in an ecosystem. So what they set up is, or what they invented for their own needs in the innovation programs is one startup readiness check. So they check the corporates before they work with startups if they're really ready and open to work with startups, which is a consulting offer, of course, but also makes sure that the startups are not disappointed in the end and can really work with them.
Can you let us know how they check this? Do they have like a list they go through, or do they conduct an interview? And what kind of questions are they asking?
It's more kind of a workshop than just a checklist, but they have concrete questions. So for example, are you open for working with startups, and are you open to give something back? It's not only getting their ideas or getting the knowledge in how do I do a digital process or something like that, or how does that product work? And this is the only way to really get them into the spirit or in the right mindset to work with each other. And also there were just a study released from Bitkom that there are still corporates that say, I don't want to work, or I don't see the needs of working together with startups. So there's still a huge amount of corporates or business leaders who think like that. And I think what helps there is a curated or a moderated process that also gives them a little bit of a security, and not only jumping into the scene of an accelerator or for example, in Hub, and just go there and work there and being like totally out of their comfort zone. That doesn't help. So to give them a little bit of a process, a structured way how to work with them is also a way how to get a little bit more into the working together and the right mindset, let's say.
Deepa, what are your thoughts on making people more open to really mean to come together in such an ecosystem, and both contributing to this ecosystem and the idea of being open?
Yeah, I think, as always, education starts with leading by example. So if you have good examples, good results where you really see how the strengths of combining different partners or even competitors working in a competition mode, or used to work in a competition mode, if they really create something new, really communicate and the examples, show the examples that people feel encouraged that this is an open platform to really work together. Oh, I don't hear your question. I didn't hear if you had any question. I didn't hear it.
We'll try it again. Do you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Can you, well, if it's not confidential, maybe tell one or two examples from the SAP sphere where you saw that things are actually working, and maybe tell us what it in the end made it work? Such a collaboration. It could be a university or a startup or something else.
Oh, there's so many, but one of the most impressive one, which I saw over the last 2 years, was actually something that everybody has on his or her smartphone, is the Corona warning app, so to say, because that was really kind of a blueprint of how to drive ecosystem innovation, to really bring in corporate partners, but also bring in a bunch of startups, having it properly funded by government, to really, so financing was clear to really drive something in a collaborative way. So source code was open. Everybody was invited to really kind of share knowledge and work on it. And this is, from my perspective, it's out of the SAP universe somehow, but it was a very effective and important innovation in the 2 years ago for all of us. So that is one of the most impressive examples. But in the Digital Hub in Munich for mobility, I also saw a few where we really jointly had some collaboration of Adidas and BMW, where you say, okay, what has Adidas to do with BMW? But they also jointly created an app where you encourage people to think about mobility a bit differently, and having kind of a gamification approach to collect points if you don't use your car, but even but using your bike, or go walking or whatever. So really kind of say, okay, how does that relate? But actually, after this initial idea, where this interdisciplinary team came up with the solution, BMW 1 year later spun out this this idea into an own startup.
All right. Important question. If someone says, I now like to start to build an ecosystem, what would she or he expect in terms of how long it will take? So if you would say, we teach people here to think in minimum viable products, so to go out as soon as possible with something where you can learn whether the market, actually the customer, requires it or not. So if we think about a minimum viable ecosystem, what would you think, how long would it take to kick this off and to establish something that is worth to be called minimum viable? Maybe Karolin first.
It's an interesting question. I've never thought about that. But when I now had to start an ecosystem, then I would not start in a empty room. I'd say I would start docking at an ecosystem that already exists, right? So finding already partners that are already connected, and then trying to get into their ecosystem, and instead of building something new from scratch, just adding some value to another ecosystem, and then spreading that and broaden it probably.
And Deepa, what do you think? What should we expect if we start building an ecosystem?
Yeah, I like the approach of the minimal viable ecosystem, because I think that's exactly the point. Yeah? It's kind of find an idea, find something where you say, okay, that is there is an approach where you really need to combine different parties, and then really start with one single step, one single solution, build something out where there was a win-win-win situation for different parties, and then immediately start communicating, creating events, creating spaces, or kind of creating formats where other people can learn from this experience. So you only need kind of a nucleus of a bunch of people to really grow it very fast. And and as Karolin also said, there could be one starting point. Then once you have your idea compiled, then connect it to another ecosystem. Always think who would also valuable your idea, who would benefit from your idea, and then you even immediately have other ecosystem players around you. But you really need to also create them, or use the momentum to really try to meet the people virtually or physically, but really gather these community aspects and where you can really communicate also these results that you achieved. So that's important. So really start very small, but start communicating and create fans around your idea.
I like fast, because I think that really, if it comes to ecosystems, I really think it's just the same. You need to find out what is working. You can come up with a lot of assumptions, but in the end, you do not know for sure what in this particular case, if it is like a university-based ecosystem, or like a science-based, or like some special vertical in health or in mobility or whatever, how is it working? I mean, I think there are great research results by now and a lot of experiences, but still, like to really create this chemistry, you have to try a lot, and I think it's important to be quick. I think, for my personal understanding, the smallest possible ecosystem can be built between two people. Because if you have two people who have trust to each other and have both a network, and these two people facilitate that whatever and whoever is part of their networks, they can create a lot more already than both of them could create alone. Yeah, so I know that this is not maybe the ecosystem we are talking when it comes to entrepreneurship ecosystems or university-based ecosystems, but I think everyone always needs to remember that she or he can already be the originator of an own ecosystem, and the question is always, do people trust each other and open their networks and think in network effects that can be possible? And this is exactly now the time when I would love actually to open maybe not only the discussion, but to ask you to take the chance, and this was why I introduced you both quite intensively in the beginning. I mean, we have people here building ecosystem hubs, yeah, all over Germany. We have someone here not only writing about ecosystems, but creating ecosystems between corporates and universities. So I would really ask you to, if you like, show up here and let us know what kind of ecosystem you would require to make a difference, what kind of people, what kind of companies, whatever, because we have like 3 people here already. So expectations, to the ecosystem or to one of these potential partners. I would be really curious if someone would say, well, that would be cool, to become part of the Digital Hub initiative, or
always welcome.
For example. And unfortunately, we do not have the slides here, but the last slides of the presentation would have included like 4 QR codes. Great, thanks a lot. That's wonderful, because this makes it quite easy, actually, to build an ecosystem. There's one for our Slack community channel, where you can not only meet Karolin, Deepa, and myself, but a whole bunch of people already. And then you have like the LinkedIn codes and lines here to our profiles. And if you start connecting now, even if you maybe not show up here, and it still might kick off something, because it's about talking to each other and creating things. But still, it would be great, obviously, once we have all the panelists here together, if someone says, okay, this is important for me for an ecosystem, or to even have an idea how to connect to one of our ecosystems. Anyone with an idea? I see you smile. No? All right. Well, then take the opportunity and get connected to whom you think it might be beneficial, and think, in terms of what is possible if it comes to create network effects. Because I learned in my startup heavily what you can do alone and what you cannot do alone. I mean, I always say, we probably did like 90% wrong and 10% right. Fortunately, that was enough. But still, one of the big mistakes we made initially was to be too afraid that whatever we had in mind could be stolen, could be done by someone else, couldn't be unique anymore. And we developed our company in sort of a bubble for quite a long time. And I can only encourage everyone not to stick in such a bubble too long. And for example, Lorenzo, if it comes to connecting universities, I mean, this is what I meant when I was talking about meta ecosystems. Lorenzo from Tech de Monterrey, I mean, he is representing, I would say, the most successful tech university, at least in Mexico, if not in Central America. And so the ecosystem is huge, over there. And when it now comes to collaborating between Tech de Monterrey and HPI, or maybe Digital Hub initiative, and something very similar in Mexico, we create totally new topics, new ideas. I was in like 3 month ago happy to join a jury at MIT where they had, well, a similar program to what we have. Yeah, so they made people build products and prepare ventures, and then at the end they had to pitch what they had done. And it was fascinating to see, because at MIT a lot of international students are studying, and with the knowledge and the network they gathered at MIT, they created solutions for problems from their home country. Yeah, so like 80% of the teams created products for South America, India, one was in Korea, I think. Knowing these markets, meeting new people, getting methodologies really enabled a lot. Maybe to come finally to an end here of this panel, you have an idea about who could make a difference in your ecosystem. So if you like, stage is yours for saying this could be cool in terms of collaboration.
So yeah, what always is cool is to get the universities on board. That's for sure, because there's the knowledge, there's the new digital talent, as we call them. So all cooperations that we can add from universities or with universities are very, very welcome, because the startups, they're coming and they have a clear benefit of it, of course, and then the corporates are there. But with the universities, it makes a difference, because there is the nucleus, I would say, of knowledge and of new ideas, and that's very important. So yeah, I'm thinking here is the right starting point for a new corporation.
Sounds great. And maybe Deepa, from your side?
What it takes in terms of
well, if you would say, oh, well, our ecosystem, be it the SAP ecosystem or others, are very open for particular kind of collaborations or ideas or whatever.
Yeah, I think SAP itself is a good example of how to build and create an ecosystem, because the whole concept of how SAP evolved over the last 50 years was really based on a very strong collaboration with their customers. And this is how the ecosystem was grown. And also there was a support ecosystem, there were a partner ecosystem that was exactly built around this product portfolio. So from our point of view, it's really kind of, we really try to engage with as many innovators of the next generations, be it from universities, be it from the startup ecosystem, be it from really early talents from the corporate world, to really bridge all the aspects to drive innovation jointly for the next generations.
Thank you so much. Good thing is, Deepa, even you're not here. If someone likes to talk to someone from SAP, we have Andre here. So
that's good.
So if someone likes to pitch his idea about collaboration to Andre, from SAP, so more than welcome.
Is this on? Yeah.
Yes.
So hi Deepa, we didn't manage to see each other in the last couple of months, so nice to see you here. So yeah, I'm Andre, I'm part of the former team of Deepa, so I'm part of University Alliances at SAP, and I'm dealing with all the academic partners in Germany, Austria and Switzerland. So pretty much what you said, I mean, I'm having a lot of professors from a lot of universities who are really eager to collaborate and look for nice opportunities to work together. So I could be a good way into that ecosystem. Is a question allowed to the two panelists?
I have to look, because we're basically out of time. I have to look to the technique. One question? Okay, perfect.
For me, Deepa, I know you, for example, I mean, you are dealing with the ecosystem in Munich, or you dealt with the ecosystem in Munich for a long time, even before COVID. So my question to both panelists would be, I mean, did like our last 2 years, which were a little bit different than what we all had before, did that change something in the way how networks work and what it did? And maybe also now, like the big international topics. I mean, I think there's a lot of mistrust now in how can I work with people from other parts of the world? Is that reliable? I mean, you know, supply chains got broken, so a lot of people say we go back to regional or even local. So did that affect in any way that topic? And if so, in what way?
I would especially look into the networking part first, because of all the geopolitical topics. I think that is something we can talk about ages, and we're running out of time. But in terms of what did change from a networking perspective, of course, as I said before, it's if you want to create communities, you need to have rooms on one hand to really give people a space to connect. What I found, it was after the first shock of lockdown and people were not able to talk to each other or see each other anymore. What immediately kicked in was this virtual networking and really virtually working together, and it was in somehow, from my point of view, turned out to be very, very effective. Because of the Zoomification, you were even more flexible to connect people from different parts of the world, different parts of Germany, different organizations within an instant. So for me, it was also, as I said, after the first shock that you don't see anybody physically and all events are not happening anymore, and everybody needs to sort for themselves out how to collaborate. I got even more meaningful and more sustainable connections within the period where we really were only working virtually with people. So you can really use that as we're doing right now. I'm sitting in a workshop in Starnberg, somewhere here in the crappy hotel room, so for this session. But you can do this also to grow communities within the ecosystem across borders. So it was interesting to see that. So I think it was even the last 2 years, from my point of view, was really accelerating the community and networking effect. What is also nice now these physical events coming back now, and people are gathering more on site, which was also missed, of course, no doubt about it. But it's really interesting that if you combine these two worlds now, it's a very effective tool.
Thank you so much, Deepa. Very, very good question. I think we could make like an own panel out of this question, because here at School of Design Thinking, for example, I think there was an enormous impact through exactly this, in how teaching design thinking, how collaborating is now working, and how normal certain forms of collaboration in the virtual room are by today, what you can actually push through these kinds of collaborations. Deepa, Karolin, I thank you so much. It was a great pleasure having you here. And I'm now handing over to the more and more nervous because of the timing. So thank you very much for the time.
Well, let's give them a big round of applause. Thank you so much, Frank, Karolin, and Deepa. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
We will take another short intermission break, and then we will resume here slightly a bit later after 4 for our final session. Thank you so much, and see you then.